Hello and welcome. I have for you here today, this is the HP Omnibook Ultra Flip Series 14 inches with the Intel Lunar Lake CPU. What does Intel Lunar Lake CPUs bring in 2025 to some of these thin and light ultra portable machines? And do they have enough power to look at potentially being able to do all workloads, including AI, video editing, graphics generation, content creation, and of course content consumption, media, and even light gaming? In this video, we're going to take a look at what the Omnibook Ultra Flip 14 brings to the table from HP. We've got a lot to talk about in this video. There's lots of new and exciting stuff in 2025, so let's jump right into this video. Now, a quick disclaimer before we jump into this video review here. This laptop was provided to me by HP for review, but all of the thoughts and opinions in this video will be wholly my own, and no one has had editorial review of the content herein. Also, if you like my content, please click the like button, click subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're notified when there's new content available here. And if you'd like to help out and support the channel more, please look at the coffee link in the description below. You can use that to buy me a coffee. It's a small gesture, but it really goes a long way to help out independent creators such as myself. Alright, let's begin by talking about the actual build quality of this laptop first. So we'll begin here. Let's take a look around the PC. So we can see here this is a very thin laptop. And if you look at the profile here, it is indeed quite thin. You can see here we've got a little bit of Poly Studio branding here because HP now owns Poly, which is the video conferencing and teleconferencing company. We have here a headphone jack on the left hand side. There's your USB Type-C 3.2 10 gigabit per second port here, type C, with alt port display out. Now this one here is beveled, so we got this beautiful chassis, that's designed here, pretty unique to HP. We got a nice vent along the back of the rear of the laptop itself. We have some Omnibook branding here. And we have an additional two USB Type-C ports. These are Thunderbolt 4 ports, so you can actually do a lot of stuff with this laptop. You can plug some external displays in, hook this up to a dock, and you're gonna have almost unlimited expandability of ports on this laptop. Three USB Type-C ports here, which all have external display capability. Now we have this little bit of a indent here that you can put your fingernail in to open the display. It doesn't quite work as well as I would have hoped, but it is nice that it's there. You still have to hold down the bottom panel as you begin to open the laptop. And of course, being that this is the Omnibook Ultra Flip, this is a 360-degree laptop. We'll show off that in a moment. On the rear of this device here, we've got two speaker grills here. It looks like perhaps two additional speaker grills up at the front, so maybe four speakers overall. We have some fan housing here, two small fans on the bottom of this device. We have some rubber feet here to keep it, nicely centered on the table. And now let's get this opened up. Of course, before we do that, just want to point out that there's also a pen included here, which HP is nice enough and generous to include in the box. This is an MPP 2.0 pen. That means this is going to have all of those pressure sensitivities for working and for graphics artists and for illustrators that want to use this laptop for that type of a workload. And of course, this is a magnetic pen, so it can attach to the left-hand side, or excuse me, the right-hand side of the laptop. You can also attach it here at the top there, but it's not quite as sturdy. There is magnetization here, so you can attach it, but you have to be very careful. So prefer to attach it, preferably attach it on the right-hand side of this laptop. For you, we'll show you here the 360-degree hinge, and that it's a very nice implementation. So as I said, it's a little bit of a trick here to get this open. So we'll lay this all the way flat. You can see here, and we get a pretty much full flat 180 degrees. And of course, because this is a flip laptop, we can flip this all the way around and turn it into tent mode. So if we liked, we can set it here like so, and then we can use the display like that. And when we do that, it switches into this tablet mode here, or of course you can use it with the pen as well. So the pen is quite nice, and it works pretty well. So if we open up Paint here, we'll make our thing a little bit bigger, and we'll say Omnibook, maybe a little bit too big. So there we can see here that it works actually quite well with the actual digitizer. And of course you can use the pen for all of your display work and stuff like that. So overall, I think this brings a very unique proposition for artists, for creators, for content editors, for students, even for light gamers. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm very impressed overall with the build quality. Of course, this is an all metal chassis here. And we've got a beautiful keyboard and trackpad as well, so let's take a look at that. So this is a very nice keyboard here. I love the size of these keys, the bold font. It is definitely a statement coming from the older HP laptops. We have a blue key here, which is a power button with an embedded fingerprint reader as well, so we get some biometric authentication support. And of course at the top here, we have a webcam. I'm not sure if we can see this here, but we also have a slider here to enable and disable the webcam. So there's a little indicator here which shows a crossed out grid or pattern, which shows that you've disabled or hidden away the webcam, and you can enable it like so. And the hinges here overall feel pretty sturdy. I mean, there is a little bit of wobble because it's a 360-degree hinge design, but it's nothing that's going to be astronomical. Once you have it in place, it tends to stay in place fairly well. And HP does give us a little bit of a bevel here, or bezel, to dig your fingernail into when you want to open this laptop. But as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit tricky. You still have to hold down the bottom panel here as you're flipping the cover open, because the hinge is quite sturdy and stiff, and it tends to pull the bottom of the laptop panel up because it is a very light laptop. We also have here the new HP logo with the new design language here. HP has gone more angular, so moving away from the circular HP blue logos of the past and onto this new logo design. We also see this embedded onto the actual display of the device here in the top cover. So if we turn this around and we flip it, we can also see that HP has adopted the same design language. You can see here that HP has adopted the same design language for the logo on the top lid as well. And to keep things professional, HP has, discreetly put just a Omnibook here label on the back of this right hinge here on the actual laptop itself. So other than that, you don't get any RGB glitter. It's not going to be a gaming laptop. This can fit into pretty much any environment, and you're going to look very professional. In the upper right hand corner of the keyboard deck here, we have this power button here / combination button here that also has a fingerprint reader embedded into it. So we do get some biometric authentication and security on board here. And plus, I'm really loving this beautiful new bold font that HP has adopted for their new, particularly Omnibook and EliteBook lines, and as well as ZBook lineup for 2024 and 2025. And we can see here from the side that this is a very, very thin profile here for this particular laptop. So this is a true ultra light. Now we'll take a look at the hinge here. So HP has provided this, 360 hinge, because this is a Ultrabook Flip after all. So that means it can go all the way flat or go into a tent mode as well. So you can flip this right around. Now this hinge feels pretty sturdy. I have to kind of keep my hand here to prevent it not lifting the laptop up off of the desk, because it is a very sturdy hinge. I've been overall pretty impressed with this hinge here. This is a very nice and beautiful design. We do get some venting here across the hinge up onto the display if you have it laid all the way down. Now, one issue you'll find with this being an Ultrabook is that despite the keyboard being very, very nice to type on, the visually very appealing, the text and font very, very nice and bold, it is a little bit shallow. Because of that thin chassis, you're going to have to compromise a little bit on the actual travel depth of these keys here, and it's definitely going to be noticeable when you're typing for long periods of time. It's quite easy here, as you can see, to bottom out with these particular keys, and you'll definitely feel that. So it's a little bit of an adjustment period to get used to in order to bring your speed back up, but it's nothing that's too extraordinary. You won't be able to adjust to after a few days of typing. And being that this is a professional laptop, you're not going to get any RGB here in terms of the backlight. You do have a backlit keyboard. However, it will be all in white. So if you press the F5 key here or the function key, you're going to get high, low, and then off. So there's two levels of brightness for the backlight on the keyboard. One more positive about the keyboard backlight here is that the secondary functions are lit up. So this ampersand here, this caret symbol, and of course the F6 here for the function keys. So when you toggle on the backlight, you're going to get both of these symbols lit very, very well. And as is the trend here in 2025, everything must have an AI label and sticker slapped onto it. So the Omnibook Ultra Flip 14 also includes this AI logo and labeling here that to tell us that this is an AI capable PC, and this is also in HP's Copilot Plus PC as well. Featured in the Omnibook Ultra Flip 14 for 2025 is the Intel Lunar Lake Core Ultra 7 258V with the Arc 140V graphics. Beginning with the CPU, we have here the Intel Core Ultra 7 258V. This is part of the Lunar Lake series of CPUs. These are designed for 2.2 gigahertz, low megahertz for basically longevity and battery life on these particular laptops, but they can boost pretty high depending on what you need and what you're doing. 4 gigahertz and above is very, very likely on these particular machines. This particular model here is equipped with 2 terabytes of PCIe Gen 4 SSD storage. We've got 128 megabytes, but it's dynamically configurable video RAM on that Arc 140V iGPU, up to 16 gigabytes potentially can be allocated to that. We'll talk about gaming, video editing, and actual capturing performance a little bit later. We've got 32 gigabytes here of 8533 mega transfers per second, so very fast RAM here paired with this Lunar Lake CPU, and this is a beastly machine, I gotta tell you right up front. Of course, paired with a 3K, that's 2880 by 1800, or which is basically 2x 1440 by 900 display screens, OLED touchscreen here with 500 nits of brightness plus pen support, and a pen here is included with the actual device in the box, and it attaches magnetically to the device on the right hand side. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. We have a 9 megapixel AI equipped webcam up top here with a slider for privacy, which is actually fantastic to see. And as you can see here, we've got 8 cores on this Core Ultra 258V CPU. So Intel's moving into a little bit of a different direction. Rather than just number of cores, they're looking at efficiency, and these CPUs, I gotta tell you, are very efficient. I'm very impressed overall with Lunar Lake in this year, and going further into 2025, I'm excited to see what other laptops and what other gaming and DGPU combinations will end up being paired with this 258E. So this one here is not hyper-threaded. It has 8 single cores, but they're very fast running cores. It's very highly optimized, and as you can see here, this GPU is actually quite capable. So it's running here at 100% of the 3D capacity. We're able to run the Firmark benchmark here about 35 FPS at 1080p resolution, and we can see here that the laptop itself is nearly silent. We're getting perhaps 36, 37, 38 decibels of fan noise here, but it's so inaudible from ear distance that you'd have to really, stop, quiet your environment. The fact that we can even do this with thin and light ultrabooks in 2025 is a real game changer. And I think we're moving into a new direction here and into new territories. If you're looking for a thin and light that can pretty much do a little bit of everything, maybe not fantastically well, but a little bit of everything, but give you a full day battery life and beyond, you're gonna have to look at these ultrabooks in 2025 with the Lunar Lake CPUs. Okay, now let's talk about the gaming performance of the Arc 140V GPU that is built into the Lunar Lake CPUs here. So I'm playing here, this is a little bit of an older game. This is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Let's take a look at the settings here. We're running this game at 900p. This display here is 2880 by 1800p. And by doing this, we're actually going to exactly half the display's native resolution, which means we're going to get less softening and less kind of anti-aliasing as it tries to fill the screen here, running at the 16 by 10 native aspect ratio, running in currently the medium preset, and we've got the adaptive quality turned off here. ZSS is enabled with balanced scaling mode here set. So we can see here that with this kind of configuration, as we run around in the game here, we're getting pretty smooth gameplay here. Now, not really getting a lot of stutters or anything like that. There is some texture pop in and texture loading at the distance depending on what's happening here. Because this is an iGPU, you can allocate the amount of RAM that you want to have available to that as video RAM. So by default here, we've got 16 gigabytes allocated to that 140V iGPU inside the Lunar Lake CPU here. And if you look at some of the stats here using the Omen stats bar here, which is now part of the Omen Gaming Hub, we can see here that we're getting about 67C on the actual CPU slash GPU package because everything here is on die. And we're also getting here actually some very good frame rates here. We're getting, about 60-ish, frames per second. The gameplay is pretty stable, it's smooth, and despite being running at 900p, this looks very much like a console-like experience. And the nice thing here I can say about this gameplay is because it's a 14-inch display, 1440 by 900, it's still going to be plenty bright and plenty sharp in terms of contrast, in terms of the actual pixel depth and density, so you're not going to see blurry or fuzzy text here. This is not 720p, gone are those days, despite it being 900p. However, I have to say you're going to see a little bit of softness here because we're scaling down from 2880, which is very high resolution, which is exactly duplicate of the actual resolution here that they're running the game at right now. But that said, with that resolution, we're actually getting this gameplay here, very smooth. You can enjoy this game, and this will pretty much go for all games here that support ZSS specifically. If you have games that do not have ZSS, it's going to be a little bit difficult, more of a challenge to run. You may have to tweak things a little bit further, or perhaps even play on a lower profile or low preset for the game settings here. But you can see here, this game looks overall fantastic, and I don't think there's anything here to complain about the actual overall gameplay of the iGPU. And the best part, this thing is silent. Let's show you here what the decibel reading is. You will have a slow hum here from the fans, but overall, it's nothing that's going to be very, disturbing. It's a very small wind. It's a very light wind sound or a movement of wind sound. You're not going to get any high pitched noise here. And also, if you look at the surface temperatures here, this thing is cool to the touch. It does get a little bit warm towards the back here near the hinge, but probably that's where the centered CPU and the GPU die are. So around this part of the keyboard here, it's a little bit warm. But onto the sides here, the WASD keys where you generally place your hands, it is totally comfortable and the surface temperatures are well in check. Now let's talk about the productivity and a workload such as video editing on the Intel Arc 140 V iGPU that's built into the Lunar Lake CPU. So here I have a clip. This is a 4K 60 clip captured from my Sony FX30 camera. This is a 422 8-bit clip at 150 megabits per second. And as you can see, I've dropped this into the timeline in DaVinci Resolve. And as I pan through, it's almost nearly real time with a few different issues here. Sometimes there's a little bit choppiness. If you want to make this a little bit smooth, it's quite easy. You can go into playback, go to time playback resolution, and change the resolution to half, and this will just make it much more smoother. It's very easy to actually play 1080p in terms of the timeline resolution here, so you can edit your videos and apply your effects and whatnot. We'll also look at the performance here for exports. We'll hop over to the delivery mode here. We've got selection. MP4 is the format using the AV1 codec and the Intel QuickSync engine. We've set it to 80 megabits per second as the final output here using the constant bit rate. We'll add this to our file here, and we can see that if we export, it's doing it in roughly 3 minutes and 12 seconds. It's a 4-minute and 40-second clip overall. So that's roughly about maybe 60 to 70% real time of the actual video. So I think that's very good performance here. And if you look at the GPU here overall, we do get some spikes on the actual GPU as you're panning through, but there's nothing that this little iGPU cannot handle. So it's the Arc 140V just gets more and more impressive the more I use it. And I showed earlier on a short as well on my YouTube channel that you can actually use this for 4K 60 FPS high bitrate video capture as well. So if you're looking to have a little workstation that you can take on the go with you to do content production, editing, streaming, what have you, the actual Arc 140 GPUs are actually quite viable for new use cases that would have been impossible with an integrated GPU prior to 2024. So very exciting times, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next iteration of this will bring with Intel's Panther Lake or perhaps Nova Lake or whatever the next iteration will be that we see on the marketplace. So very productive. Just a few small tweaks here, and we'll get some very good performance in terms of video decoding, video processing, video editing. And as you can see here, there's no GPU, and of course the most important thing here is that this laptop is silent. Not only silent, it's cool to the touch. You can do this on your lap at a cafe, at an airport, and this is a fantastic use case. This is a test of the 9 megapixel AI enabled webcam from the Ultrabook Omnibook Ultra Flip 14 for 2025 from HP. This one here has the Lunar Lake CPU, which is the 256B Core Ultra 7. That also has an NPU on board here. That means we can do stuff like Windows Studio effects, such as the background blur that you're seeing here. We also get some studio effects such as portrait mode, light enhancement, and things like that. On the display here, we're getting a pretty good visual quality of this camera. I think it looks much better. Still not what we'd get from a smartphone camera level quality, but much more improved over what we had over the 720p and even the 1440p cams of other laptops in prior years. We also have the Intel array microphones, and because we have an NPU, there's also some noise cancellation happening here in effect. That means you're going to get some reduction in the ambient noise from the room, and you should be able to hear the audio clearly, and the video should look a little bit better thanks to all of that AI stuff that Microsoft has thrown in. Courtesy of those NPUs that are now present. Let me know what you think of the audio quality and also the visual quality from this 9 megapixel AI enabled webcam on the Omnibook Ultra Flip in the comments below. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room here, which is the highlight of the Lunar Lake generation, which is battery life here. And I have to say that I'm very impressed with this particular laptop. Now, I've been able to use this for my mixed workloads and gotten through pretty much nearly a full day. That is 7 to 8 hours of workload, on this device. That's, surfing, content consumption, some script writing, emails, doing my, management of my YouTube channel, and a bunch of other stuff as well. And I've been able to easily get through an 8-hour workday without requiring a charge from this laptop. Of course, if you're going to play just, YouTube playback or just watching movies, content consumption, you're going to get much more capacity in terms of the actual power from this laptop and the battery. Now this one does have a fair size battery here for this size laptop. So a 14-inch here, we're getting about 60 watt hour battery, which is pretty fantastic, and considering that that's going to easily be able to get us throughout the day here and still remain a nice and light package that can be slipped into any bag and you're on the go without having to worry about bringing a charger with you for the duration of your day. Whether you're a student, whether you're working in a cafe or what have you, you're going to be easily able to get through a full days of workload here. For most typical people, if you're doing spreadsheets, word processing, emailing, no problem whatsoever. If you're doing a little bit of content consumption on the side as well, you have some room in there to get you through that type of work day as well. So I think the battery life here claims are real and they are certainly true. My mixed workloads have proved to be only 3 to 4 hours on a typical gaming laptop. Keep in mind, this is not a gaming laptop, but as I just demonstrated, you can also do some gaming on this laptop as well using that ARC 140V iGPU. It's very capable of 30 FPS plus gaming, even at 1080p on many modern games, in fact. And if you enable ZSS, you're going to get some very good performance on those games as well. And the fact that we can also pair that with a battery life, I would love to see this combination. Let's throw some of these Lunar Lake CPUs that are very performant, in my opinion, into some high-end gaming laptops, at least paired with the 5050, 5060, and the 5070, kind of the lower tier. If you go into the 5070 Ti, 5080, 5090, I understand that's a completely different ball game. But for these particular low end where people want a balance of everything, I think Lunar Lake provides a fantastic balance that should be taken advantage of by more manufacturers by putting these chips into many more laptops and pairing them with discrete GPUs to create something that's really powerful. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, in comparison here to the Ultrabook Flip 14. Acer has a device coming out. It's called the Acer Predator Triton 14 AI, which pairs a 288V, just the Core Ultra 9 in this series, the Lunar Lake CPU, with a 5050 or up to a 5070 GPU and a 14.5-inch screen size. I'd love to test that out and see if that really does bring the best of both worlds. That might actually be close to the perfect laptops that we're ever going to get actually in 2025. So we'll have to we'll have to see and be a little bit cautious about what that is. Let it not promise us the world. But alas, the battery on this has been overall very good. Of course, you have 3 USB Type-C ports here, plenty of ability to charge. You can charge from any of these 3 ports, which is great. It does have power delivery. You can plug in any 65-watt charger and boost this guy up in 50% battery in 30 minutes. So it's a very good job here. A great combination for pretty much anybody alike, and the fact that most devices have now moved on to USB Type-C. I love the fact that this thing does not have a very proprietary or a square or some sort of odd plug. Typical USB-C here for the win. Okay, then to conclude here, so I think HP brings a very compelling package here with the Omnibook Ultra Flip 14. We got a pen here, we got a touch-enabled display. This thing is a convertible laptop. It can go 3-in-1, laptop mode, tent mode, or even in a tablet mode, so you can draw and do all kinds of your note-taking tasks. In addition, the Lunar Lake CPU here is fantastic for getting through your workday and getting the battery life that you need to be able to work away from AC power. Whether you're a student, or you're a creator, or what have you, you can take all day and get through your workloads without having to worry about power anxiety and having power anxiety. In addition, it has enough power in the iGPU here in terms of the ARC 140V that you can actually do some light gaming as well, as I've demonstrated in this review. So overall, this is a very compelling package, and I'm really excited for what HP is doing with this design language. This is a beautifully designed laptop, premium materials all around. The keyboard is fantastic. A little bit getting used to in terms of the shallower key travel, but the shape of the keys, the font, the visual look of the keys themselves, and the keypad itself, centered keyboard is actually very good. You get biometric authentication, you get a webcam shutter up top. There really isn't much to complain about here with this HP, except for perhaps the price, and that's been pretty much the the crux of all of these laptops throughout 2025, so no surprise there. If you can definitely find this on a sale though, or if we are almost around to back to school season here, so keep your eyes peeled. If you really like this laptop, but keep an eye out for sales, whether it's through Best Buy, through HP's website directly. If you can grab this at a steal, it is a fantastic buy for those of you who are looking for not for that gamer aesthetic and that very heavy and bulky laptop with lots of heat and fan noise, but if you want something that can still do console-like gaming experience without having a lot of that fan noise and heat issues, this is going to be a great option for you. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching all the way through. Give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more deep dive reviews like this. And also check out the description below. If the product is still available and I've got a link for you, you'll find it there. Using those links is a great way to support the channel, and I sometimes include discount codes to help you save. And if you'd like to support me directly, you can buy me a coffee using the link below. It's a small gesture, but it really helps independent creators like me. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.